Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is a continuation of our test server videos, a part of episode 43, The Dark Knights, which has a confirmed release date of April 14th. Now we are looking at the 8-player raid. This is the regular version. I do plan to bring the elite version as well, but I do want to show the regular version because kind of a follow-up to my previous commentary. There has been a lot of changes, not so much foundational changes to the raid, but a lot of changes in terms of damage, in terms of attacks. There's new attacks added, there's slightly new mechanics added and fine-tuned. So if you've seen footage, say like a week ago in terms of what it looked like on release date from other channels, it's going to look a lot different since then, or feel a lot different, I should say. And there also is one attack added that is a complete raid wipe if the group doesn't pay attention. Which you'll see here. So I'm sure that this new attack, at least in regular and elite, will cause a lot of threads on the forums about people either crying or people applauding or people shaking their head. But you'll see when it gets there. So if you didn't already notice before, this raid is basically one room. It's similar to like Flash of the Future from Flashpoint, except we don't have any ads in the hallway leading up to it. It's basically you spawn into the raid, run down a short hallway, and then here's the one large room that we fight in. So once again, in terms of like a background, the extent of my knowledge about the source wall is from a small 5-second clip, and I think Justice League Unlimited when Lex kind of went through the source wall and gained all that knowledge or whatever. That's about my extent. So and also when I first noticed this Pretoria, once again I had no idea who she even is or anything about her, but it just reminded me back to she was like the shadowy figure in the duo with Sinestro. That was that I don't play with game audio, so I wasn't paying attention to the name because I rather read the text, but I remember the outline of the shadowy figure. That's what it looked like. So I guess that's the continuation. But yeah, feel free to update me on when I'm wrong about that, or in terms of how she plays, or how she ranks. Because all I know is the regular ones like Darkseid and everything else. But in terms of DC ranking baddies, but into the raid itself, it's gonna kind of focus on different aspects. So it's not like FF where we fight Pretoria the entire time and it goes off. It's not like that. We're different levels. Right now we have kind of a round one where we fight these source titans. Each one of these source titans in regular, it's not too bad. There's certainly a possibility for tanks and groups to struggle a little bit, but in elite this is where it's going to be the hard part, and which is the more challenging bosses, because each one of these source titans, as you can see, they primarily focus on their weapon attacks. So you've got a rifle spamming rolling barrage, mortar. He's doing a flamethrower type ice beam with Primora. You've got two-handed ads. You've got the one that charges like the Calabac ad. So these are really heavy hitting guys, especially with their actual weapon combos dealing on you. So you're constantly either lunging pretty much you can kind of tell throughout the entire fight you're either lunging or you're blocking. That's the thing, and you're kind of rotating before board. If you get caught with a block breaker, then you're just gonna get kind of just slammed on. I've seen tanks in elite basically they pull a boss and they last about 10 seconds before they die on these guys trying to do it solo. So in elite you have to do 2 tanks. It's not even a question, because you'll get imploded, and that's probably with group members also doing lunges for you, because like I said before, half the ones lunge, half the ones are doing counters. So you can't counter one and then get block broken by the other. But then you get the staff spins, knock you up. You've got the doom spin attacks. You've got those that ice beam from Primora. So it's definitely intense, and even in regular you can see. So the other than that, then we fight into once you're finished. This is technically a boss fight. You can get loot for this. But the only one you have to really watch for is the one that charges. I think it's the Calabac one. Sometimes with this, you lose track of the aggro because he charges to the back, and you've got enough stuff going on in the center. You also should take a notice of this kind of pink ore that's on the ground. That is just like a floor mechanic, in terms of it spawns. Then probably about 10 seconds later, maybe less than that, it does a 200k hit. So it's really more for melee DPS. The tank's going to take it regardless unless you lunge out of it, just depending on if you're able to do that or not. But the other aspect of it is any kind of DPS in range of that or in that field, it's going to take a massive hit at the end. It's not something that's going to kill you because you're going to be probably full health before they hit, but it's that the whole group will take that 200k hit that's in that field. And it kind of blends in. I guess we have a sorcery healer, which is why that giant sorcery circle, that's super toxic animation. And then we've got the new pet, the Mercy animation, which you'll see in my next video covering the artifact. That's what all these green shields are around all the pets. That means there's a DPS using the pet artifact, and that's super toxic because that means throughout the entire raid you're going to see these green circles going on all the time as a tank. I mean, as a DPS it doesn't matter because you're behind it all, but you've got like the Clarion shield animation, you've got these green Mercy pet shield animations, you've got the sorcery and like water animations on the ground. I mean, the water's not too bad because it's super transparent, but the sorcery one kind of stands out because it's like a bright red and pink. So it's a little bit awkward as a tank to try to like track down counters and know what you're doing because you're just in like a sea of animation effects. So the second boss fight is the Dark Knight. So these ones you guys are all super familiar with, like Dark Knight, Merciless. We've got Murder Machine comes out, as well as Drowned. Trying to remember the fourth one. So this one, same thing. Right? Merciless has this like spell drop mechanics, and like they're pretty much the exact same. Same with Red Death. He's gonna teleport, do his like twirl arms, and whirlwinds around you. Drowned does like the stun drops. The only one that's different is Murder Machine. Murder Machine seems like a kind of a copy of Cyborg. So the big issue is that once Murder Machine comes out, eventually he's going to do like the shield animation. So I can't remember if I died to it in here. I think I died once, but it could be to that other mechanic I was referring to. But Murder Machine mechanic can definitely not wipe the group, but cause like 3 or 4 people to die. So you just have to lunge the shield right away. But the same thing, if you give it immunity, then you can't lunge it, or someone else tries to lunge it and gives it immunity. But it doesn't do it all the time, but when it does do it, you have to lunge it. So it's either the tank has to remember to do it, or one of the group members, but it has to be done. Or it causes like 2 or 3 people to die at once, and then kind of slowly other deaths. And then, which obviously they do group wipe because you can't pick up like 4 or 5 people. But that's about it. You also see these like kind of source cracks on the ground, these blue cracks. They are taken from the alert. I should mention that the developer that does this raid too is Kotoxic, so that kind of gives you kind of a rough idea of what to expect with the raid. He's the one that did like Clock Tower. He's the one that did like the alert in the Royal War alert. So you've got those mechanics as well, which is what those blue source cracks are, similar to the first boss when you're fighting Aqualad. And then he's done, Nexus, same thing. So there's a mechanic that'll come in later to play with, which is like the Nexus protection shield. So that gives you an idea what to expect for the raid going in with that developer. There's also fire trails, which is the same as like Darkside War Factory, which you'll see that kind of like source fire trails. But yeah, that Murder Machine's out. You may have seen his shield. I think see, shield's right there. He kind of goes into like a sitting animation. You don't always see the shield animation, but right there you'll see it. So right there it says move to mark teammate. That is a part of the kind of like a play on the Nexus protection shield. It's similar to like the one from Mordru from Shadow Gotham, where you have to run to the player that has the mark to mitigate the damage. So I think it needs like 3 or 4 players to run towards it, and then it won't explode. But if you're by yourself or 1 or 2 people, then you're going to damage and kill yourself because there's not enough people to mitigate the damage. So that happens periodically. You'll see the messaging for it. Yeah, other than that, the only real like concern for the group in regular is that Murder Machine. Other than that, see, say move to mark teammate again. You kind of run towards it there, and then once the cog above the head explodes, you'll see that it's out. So next boss is the one who laughs. I guess he's some kind of difference to the Batman who laughs in this comic book storyline. Either way, he's a tad bit annoying just because you can't counter him. So that's why I should mention at the very start, but I'm running a pure resto build as fire, so that's why you have the Clarion on artifact animation. So it's a little bit easier for Clarion on the one who laughs because I can just keep doing flurry on him, and I'm not have to worry about giving immunity at all. Because you can't lunge him, you can't counter him. Other than that, his effects are basically he has phases, so he'll disappear and go back. You see that Mercy animation that's super toxic. You just got imagine multiple players running that. You're gonna have like every single pet on the entire map, like henchmen, like the robot sidekicks, the pet, like every other kind of pet is going to have green shields around them, and you're going to hear the effects the entire time. So I've mentioned it, but at this point that those effects can't change. Maybe like down the road they can, but other than that, you'll see there's two new mechanics that you'll see. Well, not new mechanics, but new mechanics to you guys. See this white beam that's kind of going around? It's similar to like the HH lasers. That's Patoria, or I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong, but that's the boss behind me basically, just doing that source eyes on the floor. So you just have to watch out and move away from it. The other mechanic is we have the tentacles from the anniversary event, so if you get too close to them, they're going to pick you up and just shake you around for like 30 seconds until you kill them. They do have low health, so you can kill them pretty quickly. And then once the one who laughs disappears, we'll have these kind of dark energy portals on the ground. That's where the dark minions come out, where you just pull them off. They spawn in for like 2 seconds and then basically start to attack, so you've got plenty of time to pull it. And they spawn in these dark energy ones, so you can see them. But the main issues ones are just at the very back to make sure you have them all. And then once you kill the dark minions, the one who laughs comes out. There's also, I believe, I mismentioning it, but you'll see these little cogs on the ground where you have to turn them. It's like a kind of like a rock kind of animation or effects that you have to turn those cogs. They basically progress the phase. But yeah, then it's not too much. So I guess we can, while this fight continues, because it's just kind of repeat the phase. Like the tentacles will come out, Wonder Laughs will disappear, the dark minions come out. You know, it's kind of the same kind of rotation. So in terms of the DLC so far, like it does. I guess I should mention actually the changes to the raid too, because that's something you'll notice as well when the elite comes out. So basically they've changed it now. Every single raid going forward is going to be similar to like FF, where it's like different levels of elite. Except now they've changed it so, because really the previous system was like with like severe, critical, like substantial. No one really cared about those levels. You ran them once just to get the progress point, and then you're running either like you're just running critical, or you're running maybe like the one below it. But you're not like consistently running all like 5 levels like that. It was too much. You don't need to create 5 different levels of mechanics, or there weren't even enough mechanics. Like look at FF. Like there's literally like no changes. Like some of the spiders would come out. There'd be like one more damage stop, but I mean that was it. Like hardly anything changed. So I mean, what's the point of running those levels? So this is the first episode release where that system has changed. So now it is like event, regular, elite, and elite plus. So there's no like 5 different levels to elite anymore. It's just going to be elite plus. So elite plus is going to be essentially like critical. So that's going to be something to look forward to, where we don't have to worry about all these different levels and different mechanics. Is basically like you're going to have elite, which is going to be, you know, elite. Where typically it's not like they made elite harder. Elite is going to be the exact same as it was before in terms of its difficulty, in terms of its scaling. But now Elite Plus is basically where they're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink after you. So it's not like the previous time where the levels will kind of progress going forward, where something slightly gets harder, or like one mechanic is added, or things start to hit a little bit differently. No, it's basically, it goes from Elite to like critical, basically. That's the way to look at it. And I feel this is a lot better because A, it gives the developers more things to focus on, rather than having to worry about like scaling and balancing on like 4 or 5 different levels as they slowly progress up to critical. Now you basically just have critical to focus on. And it's nice from the aspect where it'll feel like a completely new raid, because normally we're used to seeing like, okay, now Lois is going to, like say for example, we're taking a look at the last raid. Like now Lois is going to teleport. Now we have to individually cleanse on Martian Manhunter. Now like Superman statues will eventually do this, and like instead of slowly progressing new mechanics throughout the levels, now it's basically all those new mechanics will be all at once on Elite Plus. So it's going to feel basically like a new raid. There's not like slowly basically learning it. It's basically, okay, now we've got all these new mechanics, all these new damage aspects to deal with in Elite Plus. So that was the fight there. Now we're on the final boss, Perpetua. I said Patora, didn't I? Perpetua makes more sense. That's probably the correct pronunciation. Perpetua is essentially like the Cersei animation. She's hand blasters, but kind of like all her attack patterns are going to be Cersei based. Now with Perpetua, you've got a few different things going on. So see this block to avoid overloading target by Perpetua's damage, and you see how those players just died. So this is the new mechanic that's being added kind of throughout this raid. You'll see it a few times, but you'll see that kind of large on-screen text. You can't miss it. So essentially what happens is that you'll see that large text on the screen. Then the player, it's going to be an individual player. It could be the tank. I just wasn't selected, but it could be any other player. Then they're going to get a large gray arrow above their head. And then, so you see right there. So you look at the combat log. It says Books of Pits Immortal Source I-Beam hit me for 372k and then 331k right after that. So I think we still recovered from this. Okay, so we didn't actually end up surviving that, so I just kind of cut towards, so we're at the same health before. So as you saw, I was talking about the combat log. What's going to happen is that there's going to be a big text warning on the screen. Then a player is going to get kind of a light gray arrow above their head, and then basically they have to block. If they don't block, they're going to kill like 2 or 3 people close to them, or 2 or 3 random. And then after, if they don't continue blocking, then they're going to wipe the entire group. And that's what happened there, where like 1 or 2 people died, then like 6 people died because that one mechanic is each. So it's basically the like a source attack, and that's what I really like. It's going to be interesting how that kind of progresses with the group, because as I said before at the very beginning of the video, you know, if you can't block, then you're going to wipe the group. And same thing happens. It's going to be, you see in the combat log, same thing happened there. Like 3 people died. I survived with Manacles proc, you know, with Hardline Shield and everything else. So same thing, it happens again. So I look at it from this perspective. If you cannot block, or you cannot be bothered to block, then you don't belong in a raid. Like, really, I mean, that's as simple. I mean, I don't want to, like, I know there's going to be like complaints on the forum saying like, oh, that's too powerful for even regular, let alone elite, and people are going to be complaining about it, or want the damage tuned back. But that's the issue at hand here. If you can't be bothered to block, which is like a core foundational mechanic to this game, then you don't belong in the raid itself to either begin to complain. It's because, I mean, what more do you want? There's a text warning on the screen, then there's the arrow above your head, and then there's the realization you're gonna have a beam on you, and then there's the second, like the fourth realization that people are dying around you. It's like, oh, maybe I should have blocked. So I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a DPS, if you're a healer, controller, whatever. As soon as you get the animation, just block. That's all you have to do. If you block, then there's no damage. You don't die. It's not like you have to sacrifice yourself. It's basically you just block, absorb the damage, and then the attack's over. I mean, it doesn't even last that long. It's like less than 10 seconds or so. But, you know, the same thing, if you don't do that, then you're going to wipe the group or kill everyone. So it's similar to like the concept behind like the colors in Clock Tower Elite, or not even Clock Tower Elite, but Clock Tower in general. So if you're blue and got too close to a red person, then you arc damage and could kill each other. So I mean, pretty basic concept. You know, don't go, if you're red, don't go near a blue person. If you're blue, don't go near a red person. You know, that's, you know, I understand that people could be colorblind, so I'm not so they may not be necessarily red or blue in your monitor, but at the same time, that's the concept. It's like simple. It's like, you know, if you don't block, you kill everyone. If you go near someone of the other color, you kill someone. So we'll see how that mechanic plays out. It's perfectly fine. I mean, I expect that not elite players, but if you're running elite, I'm pretty sure you know how to block, and know how to block. Like, that's the thing. It's not like you have to block instantly and you have to like, oh, interrupt a channel, or like, oh, sorry, I was in animation. There's plenty of time, because you're going to see the screen. They're going to see the warning on the screen. You're going to see your arrow. Then you know, okay, I have to make sure that I don't continue on whatever I'm doing and just block, and just hold block for a little bit, and then you're fine. And the other nice thing about the combat log, you can see exactly who's killing you, so you can exactly call them out in the raid. So I mean, it's not like you can hide from it. It's not like, oops, it wasn't me. So we'll see how that plays out. The other mechanic that I kind of missed showing you guys while I was rambling here, basically throughout the fight with Perpetua, you're going to have this time where you're transformed into like you're going to lose your powers, and you're going to see all these ghosts come, like these mental ghosts come out. They're going to have 2 colors above their head, yellow or green. Now, when you are transformed, you're going to lose your powers, and then you start here, reclaim fragments of your soul to recover your power. So you have to, as a player, run to the one that's above your head. So you see like Uno here, he's red. He's going to go up to a red ghost, turn the cog. Then he's going to go find a second red ghost, turn the cog, and then there's finally a third red ghost. You have to turn and do the cog. I guess there's 3 colors. I see orange and yellow as well. So that's all it is. You're just turning the cog 3 times. There's some feats attached to it, doing it like quickly. But that's the thing. Your powers will be gone until you do that. So it can happen to healers. I haven't seen it happen to the tank, which would be incredibly an issue. But I mean, it could happen in elite, and that's why there's 2 tanks. But I haven't got that point yet. But in a regular event, all you're doing is just running up to the ghost. It's simple. And then the same effect where Petrol like grows and comes out. There's different phases. The foot soldiers will come out like the apex predators. Then you have like the mini source titans come out. So she'll disappear in phases. You see the fire trails in the background. You see her eyes doing the source eye beam attack. That's why that healer got imploded, because he was standing in two of them. But I mean, it's nothing damage wise. It's easy for the tank to get the res. I mean, everything was attacking me, and it still didn't even break my Heartlight shield. But that's essentially the raid there. It certainly has potential. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I understand that people were probably looking for like 2 raids. I mean, I would like 2 raids too, because I mean, this content's supposed to last us like a few months before the next episode. I'd like the concept of having 2 raids, because then it's a little bit easier, because then you can have 1 easy raid and 1 like challenging raid. So the kind of like go back like the Titans DLC, where you had like you had Hive, which was okay. It had hard parts, but you know, generally it was easy. And they had Machine Elite, which is much harder, and that kind of that 1 room concept. So you know, I like having 2 raids, because it's easier to kind of gauge the difficulty and tune it, where you can have 1. It's understandable to the community. Okay, there's 1 hard raid, 1 easy raid to farm, and then you kind of leave the second raid, hard raid, alone in terms of balancing. With 1 raid, you're kind of stuck to only the Elite Plus, because you can't really, you know, have an argument where, oh, Elite Plus is too hard, we should tone it down. Well, the point of it is hard. But then I find with 1 raids like that, you have like event, normal, and regular. Like event, regular, and elite are actually toned down easy, because that's what the players are expected to run it. And then when you try to do Elite Plus, and everything like the kitchen sink is thrown at you, it's kind of putting off from the player, and it kind of, you know, it realizes that they're nowhere close to even being near that difficulty, or they can't do simple mechanics, or they just die. So I'd like to have some kind of progression where like event leads to regular, and a regular player wants to try something harder and goes to elite, and elite player wants to try something harder going to Elite Plus. I mean, that's the great concept, but it just doesn't work out in practice as much with 1 raid. But I mean, there's tons of factors into why there's only like 1 raid. But it's certainly, for it being 1 raid, at least it's interesting compared to like the previous raid, or compared to like, say, if it was like only FF or those DLCs. There's lots of potential in this raid. You can see there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, with so much stuff going on, at least you have the potential for like a nice difficulty. So we'll have to see how Elite Plus kind of ends up with. So Elite Plus as well, it won't be releasing on the April 14th. It'll have a later release date. So basically on the 14th, we'll have like event, well, normal, regular, open world, all that kind of stuff, the alert, the elite alert. But Elite Plus will be released after the fact, just to A, kind of make sure we have the right balancing, and B, just so that if there's any bugs that release with Elite raids, then at least those can be corrected before Elite Plus comes out, so that it's not affected. So same concept was like the previous one, Elite Plusing. The critical levels didn't come out until a little bit later. And as you can see there at the end, we killed 4 or 5 different people because they chose not to block. Like, I understand it's a pug and I understand it's Tesser, but I mean, it's still the same thing. It's just block. So I think we ended up losing a couple rolls, which is okay because we were towards the end of the raid anyway. But you know, it's still the same thing. Anytime where Perpetua was out, she could have that immortal kind of source wall or source beam attack. Just watch for the giant warning on the screen, or the giant arrow above your head, or the fact that everyone's dying around you, and that kind of is mysterious because no one was dying before. So, yeah, I talked about those rocks before and putting a lasso around them. I still don't know actually what that does. I know it progresses the phase, but I don't know what kind of the purpose behind it. Just that you have to turn the cogs. So usually just the controller going in with a shield. But in terms of what that actually does, I couldn't tell you. But we're approaching the end of the raid here. While I stand in the fire trail. And that's it. So like I said, it certainly has potential. And for considering the raid is only like the one room, there's no hallways or like trash ads leading up to it. I mean, it's certainly a decent fight. I don't know any of the story behind it, like I said, but it's certainly I wouldn't mind fighting this raid. It certainly does seem interesting, and hopefully it doesn't become tedious. But there it is, guys. I did have that one wipe from showing that mechanic, but we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.